Okay.
Sure. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 9th meeting of the Ocean Highway Port Authority. At this time, please rise for the invocation led by Commissioner Mike Cole, followed by the pledge.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we're grateful and thankful for all that you do for us. We thank you for this great country that we live in. Pray for our leaders that they will continue to watch over us and make the right decisions for us. Pray now that you be with our first responders and our servicemen and women, that you put a safety net around them. Be with us tonight as we bring issues to the board. May we have clarity in all that we do. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Rosanna, please call roll.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Hill.
Here.
Commissioner Cole.
Here.
Vice Chair Nelson.
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, so welcome. This is not our normal meeting location, but because of for at the Peck Gym, we had this room available here at the wonderful residence, and thank you to them for allowing us to use this space. Good news is after the meeting, we don't have to break it down because there are people who will do that for us. Also, if this meeting goes a little long, we don't know how long it'll go. We have a few rooms available, so check the front desk. All right, this time, do we have any comments on non-agenda items?
None.
All right. Approval of minutes. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes for March 12th, 2025.
So
We have a motion from Commissioner Hill.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Cole. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And the court attorney reports. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's an update in the packet. You can see there's some information on the property appraiser case. We also this week received the same type of notice we've received in the past for 2024. So that's been shared with co-counsel. We'll take appropriate action on that. You can see the dates here that are coming up. Nothing really happening here, at least on the schedule for the next couple of months. Our next hearing is in June. I have spoken about this matter with co-counsel and the chair. We may, in the next month or so, try to coordinate a shade meeting to discuss the case. And I'll again finalize that with the chair and co-counsel. Happy to answer any questions on that case if there are any.
Does the attorney, the co-counsel with Gunster, are they going to respond to the recent filing by the property appraiser for the current year?
Yes.
Also, so that will be amended and added.
Yes. It'll start out as a separate case if we initiate, as we've done in the past, and we would consolidate it with the existing case. So that's what we've done in previous years.
So do we have like any sort of administrative or like tax certificate process we have to file? We have to pursue first.
The property appraisers agreed to hold those while the case is pending. So we have a previous agreement on that to avoid what happened when that thing was 21, maybe 22. But we have an agreement now that things are going to be held. So we won't chase those around and worry about this.
At what point, Patrick, do we need to consider lawful shade?
Procedurally, we would just need to announce it at a public meeting and schedule it. But I think we need to do a little bit of work internally, and I'll coordinate with you. But I'd say probably within the next 2 months. Okay. There's not a rush, but I think it's probably time for us to get together and talk about what's going on. The other items, below miscellaneous, we've got a mediation in a couple of weeks on the fabric warehouse, and we're in a letter writing campaign with the attorneys for Coast to Coast regarding our demand for indemnity. We'll have another response for them here in the next few days. And then you can see the other items which are already on your agenda. We can talk about those when you get there. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions for Patrick? All right. The court accountant reports, Pierre.
So you have the financial report in your package. No one's saying no, other than obviously we paid the second part of the audit fees. Last meeting we approved the audit, so So the audit fee being the largest item that was paid in March. Again, no other unusual items or anything. No, unless it has any questions. And obviously the account balance is huge. So any questions? So one of the things that's I thought was going to be on the agenda, but it didn't look. What is the administrative fee? So
Oh, yeah.
the administrative fee, obviously. Oh, you didn't miss it. That's that, I think. No, you're gonna wait till then. So, oh, that's, I'm gonna go on agenda. So we kind of feel like today. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so the administrative fee, just to kind of, we can talk about it a little bit more later, but obviously the first report should be due. So administrative fee, remember the $50,000 essentially that we owe to the city of Fernandina, the pilot payment is due October 1st. And obviously the administrative fee, so my colleague on the opposite bench. uh, so we talked about in various discussions, we talked about the getting at least quarterly report of the collection of those. So, if we could get a report of what's been collected to date. I know you sent one in January, but so that and I think I've already laid out to the commission, you know, we need to consider what we're going to do if there is a shortfall. And so that, we've got a preliminary indication, obviously the tariff should be in full force now, or the administrative fee should be being collected in full force. And so we'll have a couple of months at least of clear, because back when we got the report in January, obviously, uh, it was on, it was off, it was, kind of, was being collected for all the ships and for the full time anyway. So obviously, so this report will give us a clear indication, hopefully, of where we're headed with that and what we can expect by, again, this payment has to be made on October 1st. So obviously we're going to have to figure out, and obviously at the next meeting, once we have this report, is to discuss options, or at least start looking at options to figure out how we're going to get there. As I've told you, again, there's expected that the administrative fee may or may not, we'll see with the reward, but in the first year, I expect a shortfall. And so the question is how we're going to make that.
So I'll take it and we'll get a report.
Yeah, so if you're getting up to 3, hopefully through March, so we can see what was being collected. Yeah.
We have that on our next,
No, if you could get it as soon as you can.
Yeah, we'll get it. We should be able to get it. But probably by the end of this week.
Yeah, and that's what, because like I said, because by the next meeting, I'd like to show, have an outline of what our expectation is that this fee is going to bring in, and then what the gap's going to be, if there is a gap, and then start discussing options for how we get, are there options for how we get there? So again, because we're obviously we're since like May 1st, we'll be close to May by the next meeting. This money has to be in place by October 1st, September 30th, basically. So give us 3 or 4 months to take any actions.
yeah.
So based on your calculations, the shortfall was around $20,000.
That was my preliminary. Because I mean, we didn't start collecting the fee on a full-time basis, probably until, by the time it was passed, by the tariff was published, all that stuff. I don't know what the exact date was, but it was definitely in January, if not February, by the time all that was done. Which means that, the full fee in theory wasn't enforced until the tariff was in place fully. So remember, I mean, that fee was planned to be a 12-month fee, which should give us, the way that fee was calculated was if we charge this fee for a full 12 months on the traffic that we have, we should have approximately $50,000, right? So obviously by missing 3 months or whatever it is, maybe not. Yeah, we'll see. So, but we need to start talking about that, obviously.
So, Greg, based on the volumes that we have for this year, if we need to do an adjustment on that percentage for the tariff, do you think it's a volume miss, or do you think it's because of those 3 months, or would you need to look at it?
Oh, yeah, I have to look at it. I have to see it.
So if we need to adjust the percentage, we probably need to have that information pretty quickly so that we don't fall behind.
Yeah, you're talking about adjusting tariff again, so you're talking about, you know, the change in the tariff schedule is what you're talking about, which means it has to be republished, has to be republished. Yes, I mean, and so that's why, as I said, we need to kind of figure out where we are and what actions we want to take. So. So we'll get it to you. So.
Any other questions, comments from here? Okay, board operator reports. Greg.
So volumes continue to be very strong. So we've got strong containers still through Summers Isle. We've got the Crimson, the barge calls Puerto Rico, continues to control every time, every sailing. So that's where some of the steel, a lot of plywood is coming from, a lot of KLB. So the increased volumes there are due to that. There's a lot of demand there for that service. So that's all we can say. We've got kind of a new level of ships, very busy. We're in this range of 5 to 8 ships a month. So not sure if there are any questions about that.
Any questions regarding the tonnage report? It's trending in the right directions. That's good. Coming up. Yeah.
Yes, question.
Please.
So we don't normally represent in our tonnage report like vessel by vessel, but what percentage of our tonnage is attributable to the Summers Isles?
All of our container tons are Summers Isle.
So in terms of like the percentage of our overall business,
It's 4 divided by 27.
and it's how much divided by 27?
So 4,000 container tons divided by a total of 27,000 tons. I'm just looking at March.
So it's not the largest customer that we have.
And it's hard to say because this is broken up by customer. So we could have, it's hard to say.
It's one of them.
Okay. So if we lost that business, what would be like? Would it be a ripple effect or would it be a pebble and pond?
Would be mad.
Yeah, so is that critical to the sustainability of the Port of Fernandina or?
Why did this seems like a strange question. Why do you ask?
Well, I know that there's some sensitivity around the Summers Isles vessel in particular because of the manufacturing status for the boat and
Yeah,
recent like tariffs.
I guess we can see, yeah, it's not necessarily the recent tariffs, it's the it's the fear that there could be a fee charged to non-US flag vessels. So there's um we just don't think that that's very likely. That's our current opinion.
But if that did happen,
Would be good.
and how many of the other vessels are non-US flag? It's not just the Summers Isles.
Yeah, all of them, I mean, regular flags.
All of them. Just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding the tonnage?
So, this might be the best time to do it. We've got we want to make an introduction
Go for it.
to a new person, new team member. So Ted McNair, if you want to stand up so everybody can see you. Ted, we've recruited and hired Ted as the president of our terminal network. And so the Port of Fernandina is a part of that terminal network. And so he's based out of South Carolina, but overseeing the 2 terminals that we have so far, which are the operating agreement here, plus a private terminal in North Carolina called Carolina Marine Terminal. And so he is the new president of that terminal network. And then we've we wanted to brand it also, and so we branded the terminal network as Relay Terminals. And so you'll see a lot of people going forward, their emails will change. It'll say Relay Terminals. I don't know if you've noticed, Kyle's has changed. Ted has a Relay Terminals email also. And so we're just trying to grow and increase our professionalism. And so that's the strategy there. So you'll see a lot more of Ted. He'll be here a lot and be actively engaged.
You know, and thank you, Ted, for coming. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few weeks ago. They wanted to just kind of bring him. He was doing a tour of everything, reviewing really our area here. And so we got to sit down, have a eat, and really talk about his background. And I think his knowledge of ports is going to be very valuable here. I think just really kind of overseeing both, kind of just we're going to get, I think, more attention. Nothing against you, Greg. I know you're busy with a million other things, but I think you're going to bring a lot, to our board here to the port for again. So welcome. Very fortunate to have you. Look forward to having you at the meeting. Greg, you're always welcome to come. So love to still have you, but I know that Ted will certainly everybody be in good hands with Ted.
Yeah. So just as another note, we've got we're hiring a new terminal manager over the port of Pasadena. So eventually Kyle will transition out and this new terminal manager will come in. So, but it'll be still a few weeks before he gets here.
All right. Any questions?
So who is our point of contact then?
It continues to be Kyle until he transitions out.
Where's Kyle going?
Oh, where's he going?
Mhm.
He'll eventually go to an operation in Houston.
Okay. Well, we're sorry to lose him.
Yeah, we all are.
So any questions? This one want to grill Ted or just wait till the next
I think it's too late until the next.
All right, you have an update on facilities or anything to report regarding facilities or even new business? Just kind of overall along here.
We have a safety presentation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's after facilities report and business. So
Yep, sorry.
So new business, we're actively pursuing, we'd like to get another container line. We've also got a lot of inquiries, a lot of just our current customers and their volumes increasing. One of which is the Puerto Rico barge vessel. They've got more demand than we can possibly barge right now. So they're looking at doing things to accelerate their trips, their sailings. So reduce their time at the port so they can turn things faster. So they're actively growing, looking for ways to grow. But other than that, we're talking to a lot of people that have volume that want to move through the port.
I never seen so much plywood and lumber.
Yeah. You say it's it's getting full out there.
It is.
Right. So moving along into the safety presentation. So I think it was maybe a year or two ago when Bush was here, he gave a safety presentation, really overview of how Savage has come in and really their safety culture, so to speak. There's been some questions that have come up as of late, so I wanted to give an opportunity for Kyle to come in and give a safety presentation of maybe some updates, what's working, what's not. So Kyle, thank you for being here and take it away.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can run the mouth.
Yeah, or if you want.
Sure.
Yes.
Can you slide back on? Would that work for you?
It's close to it.
Well, that's all perfect stuff.
How's this? That's actually the portrait. All right. So yeah, I was asked to do safety presentations. So what I did is I went through and collected a lot of our safety tools because I know we've been through this a few times now. So it'll be a refresher for a lot of you guys, but we'll just start at the top. So we start every day at the terminal with a safety
pre-shift. It's typically 10 to 15 minutes, and there's really only two items on the agenda. We get everybody together at 7, and we start by covering a safety topic that's going to be relevant to the day. We've got some stuff we work through, and then we work through our critical risks, which I'll get to a little bit later. But we pick one of those, talk about safety, kind of get everybody in the right mindset for the day. And then we use the remainder of the time to go over what we're doing for the shift. So this could be anywhere like what the gang structure is going to look like, uh, any sort of odd moves going on for the day. And for those of you that have joined us in these meetings, we end each one with our safety commitment. So this is something that the whole team says after every safety meeting together. And it just sort of gets everybody in the right mindset to go get out there in the field and start working. So these are the commitment cards that we've discussed in the past, where each one of these team members signs a safety commitment when they become part of the team. And then we like to repeat it each morning. I lost my mouse. So after we do that big one, the big morning meeting, we split off into these JHA breakout groups. The JHA breakout groups are less broad and they're more focused on the task for the day. So a JHA is a job hazard analysis. So what we'll do is split up by job family. So our stevedores will get into a group, our truck drivers will get into a group, the warehouse team members, by whatever task we're doing, we're going to go over the JHA for the day. And what the JHA does is it takes the task or project we're about to work on, it breaks it down into steps, identifies the hazards that are associated with each one of those steps, and then what our controls are to make sure we don't get hurt during each phase of the project. And we have these JHAs for every task we do. If we don't have a JHA for a task, then one needs to be created before we do the job. So another significant tool that we use is SHAPS, and that's Savage's hazard identification tool. And it's really broken down. It looks a little busy on the screen, but we teach our team members 3 basic steps. Is what am I about to do? What could go wrong? And what am I going to do? And it's just getting in that mindset of critically thinking about what's going on, how could I possibly get hurt? Do I need to change anything or anything? But the SHAPS is really the foundation of our safety culture there, and it's the thing we push the hardest. Now, another one is safe work observations. And this is really important to our safety culture as well. We've got a culture of really looking out for each other. And that's really what this is all about. So the observations is we'll set goals or targets for challenges we might be experiencing. So if we're bringing in, say, temp labor, and maybe a few of them have a hard time wearing gloves or have a hard time keeping their eyeglasses on, we'll say, hey, the focus of today is observation. So as you're looking around or eyeglasses, as you're looking around the dock today, make sure we're looking for that. Make sure we're reminding each other to wear our PPE. Make sure we're reminding each other to drive slowly. And we'll set those targets and make sure we're looking for these things throughout the day. So the observations are really focused on the behavioral hazards that are associated with people. Another important thing we do is our monthly inspections. So where the observations are focused on the behaviors, the inspections are focused on the environmental hazards. So these are the trip hazards, the electrical hazards, stuff in the environment that could hurt us. We do these monthly. We rotate our team through it, so we put a fresh set of eyes on it each time, and it really helps contribute. The S7 is our operating system that we talked about in previous meetings, and our S7I is our sort of our online catch-all for our documentation. This is a screenshot from S7I where we keep all of our procedures and JHAs. So all team members at any time of the day have access. They can pull up one of the computers, go in here, look at any SHAPS, any JHA, any procedure, print it out, look at it. So where the JHAs focus on reminding the team members like pre-shift about the hazards they're about to encounter, we also have the thorough, longer written procedures that the team members are trained on the first time they do it. And I mentioned critical risk earlier. So the critical risk are the risks we have identified in the industry, and more specifically at this terminal, that can significantly harm or kill a team member. So these are the ones that get the most focus at the terminal because we like to talk about all the ways you can get hurt, but we've identified there's things that can do more than hurt. So this is just the generic critical risks in the industry, but we've gone through and identified which of these are present. And what we do is for each one of these critical risks, we train on it, and then we go identify every single place in the field where this critical risk exists. Then we identify what are the current controls we have in place to protect us from that risk. And then we get the feedback from the team on what controls we need to consider putting into place to be more safe around these risks. And what we do is we rotate from the first one, we go through every critical risk and we cover one or two a week. So we're constantly going through this and saying, okay, last time we talked about electrocution. What's changed since the last time we discussed it? Do we need any more controls in place? Has anything changed with the environment? And we're just constantly rotating through these things. I have it here. We do a lot of really focused training. I think we talked about it last year, how we did the forklift training and the fall protection training. So, we identified when we first got to the terminal that we have some certain tasks that we do that we could really use increased training and increased professionalism. So I'm not good with that. That's all, guys. So, one of those things was the fall protection and the forklift training where we wanted to really step that up. So within Savage, we have a dedicated team of trainers that go around to our various operations and train on some of these specialty items. And that's what we did here. So we identified a few key team members and we actually made them into trainers. So they went through the trainer courses and now they are authorized instructors at the terminal. So we have a really solid bench for the trainers and the people that can train on odd tasks like say fall protection, lockout, tag. So, and then SH&E also encompasses the environmental. So a couple years ago, we got the environmental permitting all up to snuff. That was a bit of a gap when we got here, and I think it had just been a big work thing, but we got that all cleaned up. So we had DEP in there, and we made sure all the permits were in place and got in line with water testing and did everything we needed to do to get the right. So we're really looking good there. I think we discussed this at the last meeting, but this is the year where we're going to start doing the quarterly sampling and testing and lab results and all that stuff. The type of permit we have is we'll go like 1 year on, 1 year we have this thing. So that's all being handled right now by SH&E manager. And then we've got team members trained up to do the various inspections. There's very thorough annual inspections we've got to do, and then there's pretty thorough quarterly ones. And then we also have some monthly inspections we've got to do every month, and then after every rain. So we spend a lot of time looking at really keeping an eye on the drains and making sure they're taken care of. And that was it for tonight. So any questions on our safety tools? Any questions for Val? Okay.
So we incorporated in our goals and visioning is our priority was safety. Because we wanted to align the core values. But how is it as a board that we can embody and sort of carry that forward, be true to that goal? You're doing the safety briefings. We don't do a safety briefing at the start of our meeting. I've been on boards where we did do safety meetings or safety briefings at the start of the meeting. So like this meeting, we would have talked about where the exits, who's CPR certified. Just that little reminder that safety is part of our culture all the way to the top, right? But when it comes to like resource allocation, quarterly review, is there more we could do as a board to sort of embody some of these practices on a broader level everywhere that everything that any project we might touch?
Sure. So we've got this idea at the terminal and within our company of start with safety. And so your example of meetings, even our meetings that are in an administrative setting, we have a safety share. from the start. And anything relevant, you talk about your commute into work, something you observed out in the field, anything, just to kind of set the mindset. But when I say start with safety, what that really means to me is starting with safety in my decision making. So I think it's really easy when somebody comes to you, say, we want to get a new crane, right? You say, hey, Opa, we need a new crane. The first thing you can consider is the cost, or what's the ROI, or how we can get the funding. Why can't the first question be, what's the impact to safety? And that's really the biggest thing I try to push. Any decision you make, anything you're dealing with, start with safety. Like, make safety the first question you ask. How is this going to impact the safety of our team members? How is this going to make our floor more safe? And then the other stuff is certainly important and it needs to be talked about, but there's no reason you couldn't start with safety. And if I could just recommend one thing, that'd be it. It's just integrating that decision making.
And if I could just, I agree, and that was kind of the sense of this having the leading question. The other thing that I've observed just in transportation issues generally is that inefficiencies are unsafe. Because if you have a crosswalk somewhere where people don't want to walk, that's where it's striped. People are not going to walk there, and then they're no longer in a crosswalk and safe. So we always are looking at like ways to improve the efficiency of the operations of the port. I think those two things go hand in hand. And so I applaud your efforts, and I think we should talk about maybe if you're doing these types of, quarterly reviews where every month you're focusing on particular critical areas, maybe we just get a summary of any issues from those critical areas, and we would just be aware of that as a board. And when we're thinking about grants and other funding opportunities that we go after, or efficiencies that we're pursuing, we're just being true to that value, because we have lost team members at the port, and we shouldn't forget that the decisions we make ultimately can cost people's lives.
And I think, Mr. Kelly's spot on, and Kyle, that culture of that first question you're asking is, what about safety? It's not ROI, it's not cost. What about safety? You're asking that question first because you understand the importance and how critical that is. And then, with that being your culture, it should be ours too. So us having that information, so quarterly update, really information of what is going on, is very important. So I certainly appreciate you bringing that up. And also, we have 6 exits here, including the emergency exit behind me. So there's our safety presentations. There's a fire drill or something that they
I've done CPR, but I don't want to do.
time circumstances. All right, any other questions for Kyle? Great, thank you. And Kyle, I don't know when you'll be heading to Houston, but thank you for your time here. Thank you for your service. You've always been a great point of contact and someone to really help us get questions answered for the day-to-day operations. So I certainly appreciate you and everything you've done. Thank you.
Thanks. Would you like this to stay here or drag it back over?
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll turn it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. I did just I added something so I saw him walk in, but right now we do have some appropriations running through the state legislature regarding the CBP. I wanted to give Davis Beam, who is here, drove all the way back from Tallahassee to be here, an opportunity if you have any updates or anything you would like to report back on how the appropriations is looking.
Yeah, put on a tie just for you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Look pretty.
Yeah,
Go Gators. Go Gator shirts or
absolutely. Davis Beam with the Fiorentino Group on behalf of the operator. So session is in week 6 of 9, and so it's been kind of a budget theme lately, and so very slim proposals. But the good news is we were amended into the Senate budget, so the Port of Frontier project is currently alive at $350,000 in the Senate budget. So that's important because at this stage in the game, you just want to be named so you're eligible for budget conference as we move forward. Obviously, there's a lot of work to do on the budget. You have the separate chambers proposals, about $4.5 billion apart. So that work's going on right now. But as we go to budget negotiations and conference, we'll keep you on the loop. But there's a lot of projects that aren't in play right now, and we are. So it's a good place to be.
That's great. That's great.
And happy for any questions, and it was good to see Commissioner Moore in Tallahassee recently.
Good. Any questions for Dave?
Just to refresh, that budget proposal, that's the customs house and the,
Is the Customs and Border Protection.
wasn't there another, that's,
That is the only one before the state legislature.
Anything we can do to help our chances?
Yeah, I think, it is, I said it before, it's gonna be a slim year from years past, a lot of the COVID federal money. Some of the outlooks and forecasting the economic picture. It's not bad, but obviously the state has seen huge growth. Tourism numbers remain high and probably, was at a pace that's not sustainable. So you're starting to see a come back to the norm. But no, I think, we're in a good spot right now. If anything does come up, I'll be sure to reach out.
No, it's great. In fact, we are still, like you said, still planning. I think it's huge, because there's a lot going on. We keep hearing about it. So no, it's great news. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Cole.
Senator Yarborough and Representative Black are on board with everything we're doing.
Great online, and we're lucky to have them as our sponsors. In fact, Savage had Andy Perucci, who I believe everybody here has met. In Tallahassee as well. We met with them both, and so they're both fired up about our project moving forward. And then when session winds down, we want to make sure we get them out to the board.
Good.
And I think it's important to remind, everyone making these decisions that the customs facility services also the airport and the city marina, it's not just for Port of Fernandina. If there's an issue, they bring those materials or shipments back to their safe areas to inspect. And so they have broader impact on all of Nassau County, not just the port.
Yeah, absolutely, and sharing the message that one of the biggest advantages of the Port of Fernandina is how quick we are to open water. We're sitting waiting on somebody to come from Jacksonville to process our ships. We lose that advantage. So they're up to speed.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right, moving down to old business. We have the TU intergovernmental coordination and review called the ICAR agreements resolution that we have. Commissioner Hill, I know you were working on this.
Yes, so this was actually for Patrick to review. So this is an agreement, it's a standard agreement with HDOT, and they really dictate the form, and then all the airport, the authorities are parties to this agreement. So I'm in favor of signing.
All right, so take that as a motion.
Yep, I'll make the motion to, so this would be signed by me as the member
Board directs me.
or vice chair.
That's
Okay, so that was the motion. Can I do that? Okay. Make a motion that, authorize me to.
okay. Motion from Commissioner Hill.
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Cole. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Tab 11B, parking. So this has been on our agenda. We discussed, the idea came up, putting up signage for no parking, to restrict parking on our vacant lots, especially when we have the annual Shrimp Festival coming up in just a matter of weeks. We had talked about using those lots to maybe rent spaces for parking and donate that back to the charity of sorts. Commissioner, I know you were taking that on. Would you like to give an update?
Sure. Yeah, so I found out that the city does require a permit for any uses that are outside of the zone use, which this would be, but they frequently do grant those permits for the Shrimp Festival for nonprofits to do parking, for example, at the school board lot on Atlantic. And there are groups like booster groups that raise money. So I reached out to my neighbor who is at the high school and I asked, who's managing that? It isn't anyone at the school. So none of the school employees want to touch the money. And so it's parents of students that are organizing to raise that money, and then they donate it in kind to the boosters. So if we wanted to pursue something like that, we could, but the idea, which obviously was unrealistic, of having a direct donation to like a maritime oriented donation, that's a lot harder to do directly with volunteer. So what do we want to do? Do we want to open it up for, a little league or some other, booster group to do that? Or what is the board, what do the commissioners want to do?
As long as we're not liable and it goes to something, a good cause, I just worry that we're 3 weeks out and, the time to try to get, some sort of a group organization moving forward now, that window's getting very, very narrow.
I mean, if we have consensus for me to approach the group that is, parking at the Atlantic or Atlantic Boulevard or Avenue lots, then we can do that. If there's another group you want me to ask also, if you know of any local charities that currently park elsewhere.
Partnered with Keep Gas on Beautiful in the past. I mean, there might be one that you might look at. Was that the Pirate Club that you're looking at with the high school?
I just talked with the counselor and he said that no one at the school is raising money directly, because I thought they were. I just saw the signs and I thought it was like affiliated directly with the high school. So I don't really have a connection. I don't have a high schooler. I have a elementary schooler.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to bring to the attention of the commission that this will be a weekend event for the Shrimp Festival. And as it has in the past, it's usually a busy week for the port. And when you start routing more traffic than you already have toward that area, the congestion is a recipe for disaster. Because in that you have bicyclers coming through there, there's trucks traveling across State Street. It does create a problem. I know it created a problem for me when we had to get extra security out there. We even had to get help from Bernardino Beach Police to kind of help keep things flowing, because a lot of people come from out of town and they're driving around the port area. They really don't know where they're going. We've even had people try to drive into the warehouses. So let's just keep in mind, we've been on the subject of safety. We don't need a tractor trailer and a car coming in contact out there on Dade Street, Front Street, Second Street, or Third Street. So if we can, I'm not opposed to a charity event, but just keep in mind with that extra, hey, there's parking down there, where in the past there's been no parking down. In the past, we opened up the shrimp lot for people to park in there, but that was for port employees and special guests that needed a place to park. We would make that available to them. So, with that in mind, uh, again, it's a safety issue.
Any comments?
That's a good point. I did raise that with the city back previously, talking about the trains that come across Front Street. That we had several events where the trains came right at the tree lighting or right at, the fireworks display. And then the train would stop in some instances and you would see children jumping in between the trains. And so I asked if the city would just add to their permitting for special events a line where you have to check the box and attach the email from the railroad stating that you clear that no trains are coming. Because they do actually. Gibbs, or I'm not sure if Gibbs is still the engineer, but at the time it was Gibbs who was doing.
Chris, they've changed people there. I was there Friday. It's not the same group of people, and they're not as familiar with port operations as the others were. So that's a good point as well.
It needs to be part of the process to getting through. Otherwise, we're counting on someone over there.
But we do have and continue to have, because even talking to Bernardino Beach Police here recently as Friday, they have people that come from Center Street wandering down the railroad. We've even unfortunately had people get up on the railroad tracks with their vehicles and drive through the terminal. So you have to be on guard with that. The least that we can have down there during vessel operations, the better.
Yeah, so I think that, well, I think in the interest of safety, is what we're talking about tonight, and then, lack really of organization at the time, and then really just lack of time to work in logistics. It's probably best we just move on from this great idea. I mean, I certainly think it was something worth pursuing.
Hard to pivot when we don't talk outside of meetings, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comments, questions? Patrick, would you do that?
I think you risk to it. It's for complication. We remember it for next year, plan months ahead. Yeah. But you got what, less than 3 weeks or 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, so is there, like, with the Shrimp Fest committee, I didn't see a central person who's responsible for parking, we could just express an interest in partnering or put me on the list. It wasn't really a list. So I don't know if the city would be the appropriate person to talk with. Anybody?
I think Scooter has a lot where organization is all of it. I don't think it's really a city or even a front desk committee.
And do we need to follow up with kind of the signage on these lots? That's something.
So I know that came up before, so if we come back to that conversation then of putting signage up, the parking signs, however, I believe that was the topic before, is how really this started was no parking signs for the busy weekend. Is that, are you suggesting that?
Like we do something.
Mr. Chairman, while we're on the topic of OPA lots, I would like to bring attention to what we call the shrimp lot, which is across the west from the warehouse #1. And I know there's been some suggestions about maybe coming a partnership with somebody renting it out. I don't know if that gets into C or not, but while we're on the lot subject, we need to leave that lot for overflow for vessel operations. Like I said, I was there Friday. There was a lot of vessel ops going on. You had 2 vessels working. And when they hired people to come from Jacksonville to assist with the vessel operations, they need some place safe for those people to park. If not, we're going to get into the situation where the police are going to come out there. They're going to be parking up in people's front yards. We've had that happen before. When Jayco had the shrimp uh, operation next door, he would put ropes up to keep people out. There's only a few parking spots there at Front Day, and usually between some of the warehouse people and security, those parking spots are taken. Then you get, 10, 15 people, 20 people from Jacksonville, there's no place for them to park. That's what that shrimp yard was allocated and used since I was there back in 2011 forward. We kept that strictly for overflow parking for people. And if we needed to take a piece of equipment down there and put it out of the way, a spread or something that wasn't being used right away, there was room to put it. But if we eliminate that additional parking, we're going to create a problem somewhere else.
As far as signage on the other lots that we have, maybe we leave that one alone for the overflow parking. The other lots, we would need to, what kind of sign, I mean, is there a tip or some kind of, what kind of signage?
I mean, you could do any
Standard
number of
parking
things
here.
some type of relationship with a towing company, if you want to go that far, whether you just want to rub them off, put them in parking, but I advise to make some kind of effort to secure the properties, especially during a festival where people are going to park wherever there's, an open spot.
I'm not the only one on this board. I've been in a position where parking is not easy anywhere for a big festival that you're going to, and so parking somewhere, they miss the sign, and then you come back, you're having a good time, your car's gone. So I really don't like the thought or the idea of towing. But again, we just get some no parking signs and two vendors, folks, I don't want to just keep beating on something that,
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to put something out there. If the consensus is you don't want, private parking on publicly on lots during, the festival, I think you have to put something out there.
So if I could, I got a call the last trip that's from our security folks. They don't always have an extra person to stand out there and police it.
right?
You can put the sign up.
That's saying, all it's gonna do is determine, we don't need to sit there and, somebody calling a tow truck or having a tow truck.
On the one on Third Street, there's been times that we would ask customers to park their patrol unit across the entrance.
Mhm.
When they went home for the weekend, and we didn't have any problems with it, but. That's always an option.
We could offer the lots to the Trinity Beach Police Department as a, to please do part.
A staging area, a roll call area.
Go for it, I think that's great.
Okay.
All right,
I'll be willing to do something with signage in the future, but I don't think I can get it done between now and the festival, but for the future.
thanks, volunteer for next year. Okay, well, I get some time together, get some out there, but, so, all right, move that route. Seriously, we need some staging area, Fisher Hill, it's on. All right, so moving on to new business.
Got one more idea, old record.
Oh, the revenue share details. Patrick, you wanna,
From my perspective, it's been radio silent from the operator. I've reached out to, their in-house counsel a number of times. Since we had a virtual meeting about it, we're supposed to hear back from them on some thoughts they had in reaction to what we said. And I've gotten no response to multiple inquiries. So, I can keep emailing, I can write a letter, hoping for suggestions from the board, but I haven't heard nothing.
so that's been over the last month, right? I mean, it's been, or
It's a couple of months.
couple months now, okay. Yeah, how do we, Greg, speak for you, I mean, so I wanna, before we get into the revenue share, but the communication side of it. Because I know when we're trying to get information, Rosanna's sending things or Patrick's sending things, it seems to be a little slow to respond. I hate when it comes to, or the whole board meeting, we start having to ask you or, grill you about it, and how can that get resolved? Right now, it's the communication side of it, and then we get to the revenue share.
I'm not sure what the best solution is there. I mean, when we see legal counsel, we really are talking about Amy Wilson. She's, very busy on lots of things related to the board for Indiana. She's got a lot of issues just with this courts, but when you say revenue share, you're talking about facility use fees.
So it was the, revenue share was the
admin fee.
The facility tax, the pilot pay.
Yeah.
Oh, the pilot
Is
fee.
that what you call it?
Okay, yeah,
I call it, yeah.
okay. Okay, because I do know that there have just been some recent things happening related to that. They need our attention and review. So there are just a lot of moving parts with that. I don't understand them completely, but it's more than just saying, hey, everything's good. This is what it looks like. It's got a lot of moving parts.
I understand that it's one, it being this one department, the legal department, that, things are getting held up there. But that's when we get into position of, okay, we've been beating this up and we've got now 5 months to try to get something, or not even get something resolved. I mean, we just shouldn't have resolved in 5 months to really, make a payment. And so the lack of communication is just what really becomes, it's important that we have a better line there.
But the payment's not due until October 1,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not mixing up two things.
Correct, no, correct, but we have to have everything, I mean, we were hoping to have everything should have been in place for us, revenue share prior to that. and right now it's just I mean, we're looking at,
So remember, I mean, the revenue share discussion, which I think was January, was kind of the major meeting with the lawyer and stuff like that, was about how how is this money gonna come to us when, remember the issue of if there's a surplus, if there's a deficit, where does it go?
Yeah.
So that's where we're waiting. Obviously, we've gone back and forth a couple times. You make your position clear. We kind of made our position clear. The question is where we go. I mean, it may just be, kind of, and I've proposed, like, obviously, if this is just going to be another, I'm calling it the admin fee. I don't know what you call it.
It's a core infrastructure fee.
Port infrastructure fee. Okay. So the port infrastructure fee, right, which is specifically, so the question is, well, fine, if there's nothing special about this fee, in other words, we don't agree that if there's a surplus, it should go to maintenance accounts. You don't agree that if there's a deficit, that we should take it from the maintenance account. Okay. And because I think that's where we are, right? So then the debate is, should we just move on with this fee and treat it like the harbor admin and bunkering fee? It's just another fee that you're collecting for us, right? The tariff has been passed. This is a fee that we've requested be added to the tariff. And that's it. And that's where it should end, right? Because I think that's where yes, there's debate how it's paid, when it's paid. And there was a proposal there. I don't think you have any issues there, but I think the issue came down to, and we know, and as I said a couple of minutes ago during my report, we expect there's going to be a deficit. You Savage had brought up that if there's a surplus, what should we do with it, right? And so, and that's where, as I said, I think we're stuck with moving without being able to move forward. And again, the question is, well, if you don't agree, we don't agree, then again, why shouldn't it be any different from where you send us those on a quarterly or monthly basis?
Which one?
We're bunkering.
That's monthly.
So sending us the bunkering fees collected on a monthly basis. Why would this fee be any different then?
I think the last discussion we had with, I think Commissioner Hill was on remotely, was we made an explanation and proposal to Amy. She received it, she said, "We'll think about it, we'll get back to you." And we have literally heard nothing since then, and that has been approximately 2 to 2.5. So, Greg can help, or if I need to send a letter instead of an email or what, but it's not even, "Hey, we're working on it, I'm busy, we'll get back to you." It's literally no response whatsoever. So there's not much else I can do here.
But our
I mean,
proposal,
right now, we're over halfway into the year, and we don't have clarification that Shreve could pay the fee. So now we're stuck looking at a bill of $50,000 that's gonna be due on us in October. And we don't know if we're gonna get a penny. We don't know if we're gonna get half of what the fee is. We don't know what we're
Just a big note. Let me get with Amy and see how we can respond quickly. I think getting a report by the end of this week will give us some indication we're still dealing with. And then we can start from there. So I'll just make an effort to get with her and just make sure to respond. I'll try to respond this week.
so we've had a few points come up regarding the operating agreement where we believe there is some level of ambiguity as to how the mechanics will work to effectuate the agreement. It seems that it might make sense to prepare a short amendment that closes those gaps or is an attachment, or schedule to the agreement that would describe when those payments are made, when the reports are made, and clean up the public records language and some of the other, kind of hanging items that have emerged since the agreement was executed.
And we've done that in the past. We have an agreement back in 2018, 2019, clarifying some of the when payments were going to be made, et cetera. So
So maybe we could lead with a red line. Maybe that would help facilitate and like flesh out the concerns. It seems like there's been like a lot of emails and disagreement, discussion, but maybe the red line or, being able to work on a document would help.
I think the
But I would
issue.
say that as a contract.
Well, yeah, but the issue here is philosophical, right? It's, obviously this facility fee, right? Yeah, if there's surplus or there's a,
Just to be perfectly clear, there's a port infrastructure fee. And there's a facility use fee.
Right.
And they're totally
yeah,
different.
yeah,
So which one are you talking?
I'm talking about the 17 cents.
Okay, port infrastructure.
Sorry,
No worries.
write that down.
No worries.
Port infrastructure. So the port infrastructure fee, so I think the issue is more, we didn't have a lot of issues with the proposal for, like I said, the reports are supposed to go out on the 10th of each quarter. And they were gonna send us the payment on September 15th. We didn't have a lot of issues with that. The issue that I think
Well, so hold on, so that commitment was, or that statement was related to the facility use fee, not the port infrastructure fee.
Yeah.
So the port infrastructure fee is the roughly 17 cents, I think it was 17 cents put into the tariff to cover the pilot payment. Is that right?
Yeah.
So the facility use fee is a fraction of the wharfage that was to be paid each quarter. But so just to deal with each of these separately, the port infrastructure fee, the 17 cents that's dedicated to the pilot payment. I'm gonna get a report this week. We're gonna see what it looks like. I'm gonna get with Amy this week and work to respond to Patrick's last emails regarding that as soon as possible.
Okay.
I don't know what's hanging it up. I don't know what could possibly be hanging it up. We should be able to respond quickly. Now, the facility use fee is, we're still putting together, it's got some nuances with the property insurance
Yeah.
that we pay, right? So property insurance in the operating agreement has to be reimbursed. So we're gathering all that. We just placed a policy, brand new policy, just expired. We'll place a new one as of the end of March. So we're still assessing, carving out the cost for OHPA's property.
I don't think we have any issues with that. We understand that. We understand that, yes, the contract, the port operating agreement calls for the use of those facility use fees to pay for the insurance. So
Right.
we don't have any issues
So
with that.
That's why we haven't finalized anything or made a payment yet on that, is because we're still gathering
Yeah,
the property insurance.
Obviously, we don't expect you to make a payment because, I mean, if you do, great. But obviously, we expect that obviously the insurance that you're paying will dwarf the amount of the facility use fee
That's what
for
we
the
said.
current year, right?
Okay.
And obviously we need a report on that by the end of the year so that we can deliver it to the auditors, because in theory, that money was due to us. And yes, it was used to pay, or in theory, that money came to us and then was used to pay the insurance, right? From an audit standpoint. So we need those records for that. That's not in question. That's not, again, I don't see any debate about that. We understand that the port operating agreement allows that. Yes, and that's not, that's not an issue. As I understood it, the port infrastructure fee was the issue. Because we again had been brought up that 17 cents, and again, because we started late, what would happen to any surplus or any excess or any deficit of those funds? And as I said, as I understood it, Savage had brought up the fact that any excesses would go to the maintenance account, and we had countered with any deficits which should come from the maintenance account.
Oh, that's right.
And that's where and that's what I mean by philosophical. That's not an issue of timing of payments. That's not an issue of when you're going to report to us. That's, do you agree or don't you? And if you don't agree with that, then the question for us is, well, why don't we just call this another fee that you're collecting for us that should just be remitted on a monthly basis?
I see. I get it. And so that's with the
Yeah,
response.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's where, because like I said, we don't disagree with the facility use No.
That's right. So
The insurance thing.
So
by Friday, we'll get a report. We'll know at least have some kind of indication of where it's gonna land by, October 1.
Yeah.
And then I'll work with Dean to get a response on that, what we do with overage, underage.
Right.
It's good as possible.
Okay, yeah, that's what we need.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, that's just a one comment. It's related to money, but not directly related to the revenue share slash admin fee slash infrastructure fee. There's some overdue legal fees that have been presented by Rosanna several times to get paid, and they haven't been paid.
So I was made aware of them a couple of days ago. I think that they were approved today. Is that right, Kyle?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so so payment should be in a day or two.
So, I know Mary sent an email to Rosanna today, last night, requesting the invoices, and all the backup material, which then Rosanna, sent over again, but she sent it over. So hopefully we get that.
Yeah, so I think they were approved.
Yeah, I called Amy this afternoon and she assured me that they did push.
So just circling back to the infrastructure fee. So then right now the fee is at 17 cents a ton, right?
Yeah, that's what I understood. That's what I saw here.
So can we discuss an increase tonight? Just in the interest of moving that forward, since we will likely need to make an increase in the tariff in order to cover the shortfall.
I'm not making any decisions tonight. I think we get the report, we see what's going on, and to get a response on order and get that resolved. That's it. Those two things, so solid.
So taking it to 28 cents a ton would cover the percentage shortfall, but we don't have the full year.
So obviously, well, that's where, as I said, this over underage, what we do with it is if we get that resolved, obviously, what we've proposed is that obviously if there's an over collection of this, it goes to the maintenance, but also if there's an underage, that it comes from the maintenance account. So getting that resolved will solve the issue, right? Because if they agree that we can take the money from the maintenance account, and obviously for this year and then in the future, any excesses will go into the maintenance account.
And then we could lower the fee, we could raise it temporarily and lower it. It's just that one fee. We could raise it temporarily. All we're talking about is over all of the tonnage, $20,000 spread across all of those customers for potentially
Or
3/4 of the year versus waiting until we come up to the end of the year. We don't have. Well, I guess we're already halfway because October is the deadline. So
My initial, sorry,
yeah, no,
my initial response, or my initial, I guess response would be, I would not, well, I would do almost anything to not have to go to our customers and raise the number, raise the number.
almost anything except contribute toward the pilot payment, which we don't have a budget for. I mean, that's really, I mean, not to be rude, but like, that's been the whole, like, the crux of the discussion is that we had to cover $37,000 for the 3 years, which was a bargain, frankly, for the 3 years that it wasn't paid. And prior to that, it was the operator's responsibility, right? It was $50,000 a year, and it's been $50,000 a year for a while. And so then we covered 37 to clear the 3 years that we were in litigation. And we were only in litigation because of the operating agreement not having that fee reimbursement. So
Yes.
now we have $50,000 moving forward, and we still don't have a way to fund it. And we are gonna wait until the deadline, then say, there's a shortfall. And we don't have a way to fund it. We don't have any other revenue source. So go ahead.
I guess to reword it, to state it a better way is we won't go to our customers and raise more that fee, like that or that. And we proposed the tariff, we gave you changes. They took a long time, months and months and months to get, approved and to be posted.
But the fee was collected before the tariff was adjusted because most customers do not. Most customers pay.
Partially because we saw it coming, so try to get it. So where we could collect it, we did.
So I think the next step, Greg, get the information back to us by Friday. Let's review it, get the questions answered that we need answered, from Amy. We come to you on the 23rd, we're gonna have that information, and then we move forward to whatever discussions we need to have, in regards to trying to get this caught up, paid in full. We need to figure out, where's that, deficit coming from? Any further? It's a new business. All right, so this is our RFP for legal services, with Patrick submitting his resignation. I want to thank you for agreeing to stay on a little longer. It was a little longer than 60 days. He gave us just to until we find someone. My goal here is, so we've all had an opportunity to review the RFPs that came in. We're going to give the candidates an opportunity to present themselves. We can ask any questions, and then if we do have one we would like to select, we can then work on a contract and then bring it back and be on the 23rd. That'd be something that you'd be able to draft for us and then go to enter into a contract with them and then work there.
Yes, sir. I think if you want to take action tonight, I think there's one other little thing to talk about. If you want to take action tonight, my recommendation would be you as a board select and authorize me to negotiate a contract and bring that contract back. It would have to be approved separately. So it's kind of a two-step process. I don't know if you want to mention Roger, if you want me to. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation procedurally. If you're up for selecting tonight and then bring the contract back at a later meeting.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll kind of go down the list here in order, of what's on the agenda, and give candidates opportunity to come up, introduce themselves. I do want to just reference Tammy Bach with Trask. I can't even pronounce the Tammy Bach. So she intended on being here. She was excited about being here. She had an emergency that is keeping her awake this evening. We've all been made aware of that. So unfortunately, she couldn't. But so that's not, we're not going to so that against her. But I just wanted to we have representatives here from the other firms as well. But and going through the list with Tammy. She's got the government experience. We know most recently with the city of Virginia Beach, where she served several years. There is the potential conflict that came up, which was a concern I spoke with Patrick about, and it was a concern that she included in her RFP. And so, really, anything related to the pilot case that we settled with the city, then anything related to the existing property appraiser case we were in, and then I would even think the case around the fabric warehouse. But I know we're going to mediations on April 22nd, so maybe a good point. By then, I don't know, but I would think that would also show the potential conflict. So,
I just wanted to say that when you and I spoke regarding the settled pilot payment case in the city, if that came back up and was an issue that needed to be dealt with, and the property appraiser case, I would be happy to be available to step in. But I agree with Tammy's assessment that would be a conflict. She would not be able to be involved. So if you so choose, I would be available to assist with that, or you can pick somebody else, but confirming something she couldn't help.
and I know you did mention that if you need to step in, I'd just rather you say it. So I don't have that on the spot. So to go down, if we want to kind of at that point discuss candidates, or we can just jump right into the other candidates who are here. Let's all right. So we'll move right into Lazikia Hodges and Daniel Bean. Thank you for being here with Smith, Gamble, and Russell. For now, it's good. So you're welcome to move the yeah. Just it's
So
It's fine.
it's on break. So that one was roughly. Yeah.
All right, so as you said so beautifully, my name is Lafithia Hodges, and I am here with my colleague Daniel Bean. And we are very elated for this opportunity to be able to provide you with legal services. Just a little bit about myself and Dan. We are native of Northeast Florida. Most of the bulk, I consider myself a veteran city county and local government attorney. I've been practicing over 22 years, 17 years specifically, in city county and local government and board certified, currently the chair of the actual committee that certifies attorneys to become city county and local government lawyers. The bulk of my experience, as you may have been able to see in our response, comes from the great consolidated government of the city of Jacksonville. I had the privilege of being able to serve there for 17 years. And what's very unique about that experience is I not only had the opportunity to service the 19 city council members and the mayor's office and the departments, directors, the constitutional officers, property appraisers, tax collector, but also there are 7 independent agencies, one of which is, of course, the Jacksonville Port Authority. So I have had experience in working with port authorities, specifically the Jacksonville Port Authority procurement, contract agreements, the intergovernmental agreements that you were speaking of, ethics, port parliamentary procedures. Daniel Bean is actually one of the board members that currently serve on the Jacksonville Port Authority. He also has very good experience of working and representing governmental entities. And so with that, again, very elated for this opportunity. I do represent other special districts such as yourself, as well as another municipality in Clay County. But, I'll open it up for any questions if you have any specifically about anything that we represented in our RFP response.
Any questions? So I will say, you, Mr. King, you may not remember me, I remember you, 2019, we actually worked together on the creation of the Firewatch Council, organization that was created to reduce veteran suicide. I was actually one of the founding members, when I was a Nassau County Commissioner, so I was representing Nassau County, in that effort. So I certainly appreciate your legal expertise and efforts, in helping.
And we did not. We just wanted you to bring that up.
There you go. It's the only way I was able to get your name perfectly,
No, I just wanted to say hi to Deanne. Thanks for coming all the way out. And Dan and I practiced together all night. And he's not only a great lawyer, a great human being, and decorated Navy veteran. He is one of the people that I strive to be like in almost every way, except for running, which you're kind of a slow runner. So no, I worked practice piano all the night, and he always introduced me as a colleague, but I always knew that he was truly a mentor, and I just am very honored and grateful that you can come back and come up to the board and offer your services. And thank you, Lucikia, for your presentation. But I am disappointed that we didn't have Tammy here tonight. I know she had emergencies, so she's actually in the hospital. And I just wanted to call that out, that I know she would have been here, she couldn't have been. And the other candidates that are here, haven't had the opportunity to work with you, but look forward to hearing your presentation. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, up next from the firm of Lacey Rozanka. Close enough. Ron Hadaway and Caitlin Lewis.
We're going to present together because we're very much a team. While I'm a partner at the firm and Caitlin's an associate, those are designations as to how we get paid. But I very much feel like Caitlin's my equal, and we each bring some unique skill sets that I want to be sure and highlight. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and we come from a place of passion for Florida ports and their role in our Florida economy and our communities. I was once in your seats as an elected commissioner at Canaveral Port Authority, and understand both the public trust in you, the accountability for public dollars, and answering back to the voters at the end of the day. Professionally, I focus on business contracts, also do local government advocacy, and have worked both in the port and out with economic development. A personal passion project of mine is also workforce development. Started a program for high school students at Port Canaveral to introduce them to career paths at the port that I'm still very proud of. And also as a practicing attorney, have experience both requesting public records as well as trying to keep them as an elected. So I know what a challenge that could be. I wanted Caitlin to just offer a few comments, because I won't do them justice, on her work, both with the Florida Ports Council and also on state federal grants.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Lewis. As you said, I'm an associate at Lacey Rosanka Law Firm. I actually have former experience as a staff member at Canaveral Port Authority myself. I come from a background of 10 plus years of government affairs experience. I'm also a licensed attorney, and now in my day job, I do litigation, land use zoning, code work, contract review, primarily, and then government affairs work. But I actually had the pleasure of meeting Commissioner Cole through some of my work with the Florida Ports Council and some FSTED involvement. And then actually, as Robin said, I have a true passion for port security and safety. And we have, I actually authored a bill myself and ran it through the Florida Ports Council to add ports to the critical infrastructure list for the state, allowing us to get utilities back quicker after a storm, preventing drones from flying over ports. So there's been a lot of progress in that space. So we both bring different legal perspectives as well as life experiences. As they say, if you've seen one port, you've seen one port, right? And so we're not going to pretend like just because our experience at Canaveral Port Authority, we understand your lines of business or the intricacies of and the uniqueness of Port Fernandina. But I can tell you that we bring a lot of years of experience, both legal through the legal realm as well as port experience itself, that I think would lend you really well. So we're happy to be here this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're happy to answer any questions. I know we're coming from a little farther away and we don't have that home team advantage, but I also hope that's a benefit in that we don't have any conflicts either from a litigation perspective or in a competition and grants perspective. So we're not currently representing other ports that would be competing for those same state dollars.
Or appropriations, as mentioned before.
That's a good point.
Any questions? Comments?
So you're not local. Could you tell us a little bit about how you would manage representing us as a local board with, we have, I don't want to like cut ourselves down. These are not great. And we're working on a very small budget, but our meetings are difficult to hear online. So you would probably have to be at the meetings.
At least one of us would be in person, but both of us would be monitoring issues. My hope would be that as we see agendas flesh out, we would send the one of us that was most qualified to speak to that issues. If you had an issue with government appropriations or advocacy, I would say this is your girl. And if it were, negotiating leases with tenants and use of land contract issues, I would come.
And I should have given Lasikia the opportunity to answer that same question because I know she's in Jacksonville. And your other clients are 2 hours away. So if you wanted to answer that same question.
No, I mean, we have an office, Smith Gangrel downtown in the Bank of America building. And so we're probably about 40 minutes away from where you are. I mean, we're local here, so transportation would be an issue at all.
I can say that we do a lot of government work back in county that we're in, and so we're used to night meetings and we're used to traveling. Our county is really wide, and so we are very familiar with night meetings and lengthy meetings. So we'd be prepared to travel, but also to stay for the duration that you would need us.
Port Canaveral is mostly cruise ships, is it not?
it has a diversified portfolio, portfolio, actually. It is the number one, number two cruise port in the world, depending on the year. But also it has a huge cargo line. It's just not the predominant business line, but it is quite diversified. Actually, when you were mentioning the lumber everywhere, post-COVID days, we had lumber stacked for miles. So we know that feeling, but we're very familiar with the cargo side of it and container, break bulk, all of those different commodities that come through here.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments?
Coming. All right, thank you.
All right, so now's the city side part. I say hi to them all. Okay.
Chair, I wanted to just propose or ask the rest of the board what the thoughts are. I've already discussed this with Patrick, because we have an applicant who wasn't able to be here tonight. And I think Patrick is willing to continue to help us. What is the consensus of the board to defer our vote until the next meeting, when we could hear from your candidate? We could, of course, welcome back the candidates if they want to come, but they don't have to. Just to hear you like you're okay.
I'm good.
Okay, nothing.
I'm listening.
Okay, that we could defer the vote just to give everyone an opportunity, because we haven't had the opportunity to ask Candy any other questions about how she would manage conflicts or.
Yeah, I would be interested in hearing from Tammy also. Can't mull it over and look at the timeline.
Yeah, Liz came in and really my intent was when we close it off, for one, was to give us time to look at it for this month, because, yeah, I know, and Patrick, thank you again, thank you. He's kind of working outside of, his terms, we certainly appreciate that. If you're willing to, because now we're getting into another month, we come back here on the 23rd for, for the meeting, and then we make a decision for then going into the May meeting. So really it's,
I'm here at the pleasure of the board. This is an important decision. I've been here for 4 years. There's no reason for me to cut and run. I told you initially, I'm here to find a suitable replacement. This was unforeseen. I would hate for you to make a decision because you think I'm just gonna, cut and run. So whatever you all decide, yeah, I'm happy to serve. It's the pleasure of the board if you just stay another 4 years.
Okay, so if we can, send an invitation, I think she'll be back up and at 'em, but to Tammy to join us on the 23rd. And then the same thing, the other candidates, you're welcome to come, hear her presentation. I'm lenient, so if you want to give another updated presentation, you're welcome to. But yeah, I think that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Sure. So we will be meeting on the 23rd.
We will, yes.
Put this on the agenda.
But we are not supposed to be talking to any of the applicants.
Correct.
Yes, the meeting will be here.
Okay, I'll contact Scott.
All right. Well, thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch. We hope to see you again on the 23rd.
Y'all welcome to stay for the rest of the week.
If you show you. So moving on to the RFP for the public-private partnership. I know Commissioner Moore, we're working on that. That one was
Yeah, Patrick prepared a draft of an RFP for the Front Street property. And I've talked to him about this. My concern is that I don't know if we're at the point for actual formal RFP. I can float the idea of RFI. Certainly will can be bended to either option, but my thought about that property was that one, we need to as we've talked about a number of times tonight, we need to maximize the assets we have. We need to develop additional revenue streams so that we're not beholden to one pot of money, so to speak. And the property on Front Street seemed to be the most logical piece of property that we own for bringing in, partnering with some other interested business in the county, outside the county, whatever it may be. So Pat prepared a draft of an RFP. I'd like to discuss that draft and then discuss whether an RFP or an RFI is the best avenue to go forward with that.
Yeah. Comments or questions? Patrick, do you have any?
No, I mean, we prepared this, actually the lion's share was done by one of our associates, Kyle George, just in the interest of trying to keep costs in mind. These types of RFPs or public-private partnership, P3s, whatever you want to call them, are usually pretty complicated and complex. They also usually involve some other type of incentive, whether that's a property tax rebate or completion grants, or any number of things, which either know whether you have the authority to do that or have anything to offer other than the dirt, which is I'm not saying isn't worth anything, but that usually there is more meat on the bone. So we had to kind of modify this. Again, Schwartz correctly spoke about it, and maybe or explore maybe issuing more of an invitation. Hey, would anybody be interested? So what would you put here before we go to a full blown RFP? But there's any number of ways you can do this. You can put a forward sign out there. You can be a little bit more official. This is a working draft. It's not ready to be put out on the street. It's got some gaps, just because we didn't have a whole lot of discussion about it. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But what you've got in front of you is we're near ready for a vote or anything like that.
Any comments?
The only comment I've got is what is the plan for it? I mean, I'm looking at this and I still think that property is well suited for what it is right now. That's an overflow yard for terminal employees. We don't have a lot of room around there, so what we do have, we have to make it work for the circumstances that we're under. And if you've ever been out there where they're bringing these gangs out of Jacksonville, I mean, they'll fill that yard up. You just can't have people parking everywhere. They've even tried to eliminate some of that parking by allowing employees to park inside of the terminal. But every space out there is valuable when you're bringing cargo off of that ship. You don't need cars in the way. You don't need that obstruction at port. I just asked the board to take a look at that. If you need to go out there when they're working multiple shifts and they're bringing gangs out of Jacksonville, you need to see how valuable that lot is to for the park.
When we talk about development, that lot, what do you have? What are some ideas that you have in mind? What do you think?
I've talked to a couple of businesses. One was a nice business that wanted to explore the possibility of putting nice kiosks there. Beyond that, there hasn't been a lot of interest in it. It may be that there isn't any interest. It may be a situation where the dirt alone doesn't entice anybody to want to. But we don't know the answer to that question unless we ask the question. We're just making assumptions that there may not be anybody interested in that without actually finding out if there are people interested.
If I could make a comment, like my just first look at this, I believe that property is part of the port needs. If so, it's part of the operating agreement. It can't simply be repurposed without the operator's approval.
My position is that the Port of Fernandina is part of the Ocean Highway Port Authority. And, they're two, joined but distinct elements. So we can have other, avenues, other lines of business that are not put forward.
I don't have any issue with that. I believe that this property is a part of the, as the operating.
Not a separate lot that we would.
It could be a separate lot, but it's part of what is included in order. Just like the warehouses.
So in the past, the board at the time was considering cruise operations, and this lot would have been a very narrow access to deep water to potentially have some point of ingress and egress, a passenger loading spot. So it would be this lot and then a portion of what's part of the gate, I think was part of David Kaufman's plan to bring cruise ships to Fernandina. And Butch, your predecessor, Butch Gilbert, was quiet for a while as those discussions were unfolding, and ultimately did say that it was not compatible with cargo operations to have past cruise terminal. So it wasn't a positive for the operator. And then we found some snags with the underlying property. It's several different parcels that comprise the port property, but the largest parcel was conveyed by Container Corp to the Ocean Highway and Port Authority. And as part of that conveyance, there was a deed restriction that said it would always be used for cargo handling and the industrial use, and that if that parcel was not used, that it would revert back to Container Corp for a very low price. They had a right of first refusal. I think it was like $50,000 or something, but I don't quote me on that. So that was that one piece. That's not the whole port, but it's enough to put the whole discussion in a totally different light. But going back to that one small piece that you're talking about, the Front Street lot, you mentioned the ice, it's not ice manufacturing, but it's a kiosk that connects to water. So you do need a city water supply. You need power, but it's the size of like a Airstream trailer. And you need places for cars to park, to pull up their coolers and fill their coolers with ice, like a twice the ice type operation. That can go anywhere. That doesn't need to be on a deep water lot. And the fact that we have this access, I mean, this could be this could be a fuel dock. There are other fuel docks very close by, but this could be a fuel dock. This could be anything that needs deep water access. And to put something on there with a lease that ties it up for any period of time is going to, of course, stall us from pursuing something that is a higher use. So,
And that was kind of the idea behind either an RFI or an RFP was putting it out there to businesses and seeing who might be interested in developing to that level.
I've looked and I'm not disagreeing with Greg, but I don't ever respond to this operating agreement actually saying what the property is. That's one of the flaws with this operating agreement. There may be other documents, there's mention of other documents and other agreements and amendments and mergers but there's nothing in here that says exactly what dirt is the facility. So I'm not disagreeing with Greg. It may very well be, but I've certainly looked at that and it's outside the gates. I just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, I assumed, but Commissioner Hill just mentioned, I don't know if there's a title report or something like, I really don't know how you would definitively determine that because it's not in the operating agreement. So I just wanted to state that, not disagreeing with you, Greg. But
I totally get it.
I mean, because everything else is listed here, the equipment, the cranes, all that is here. There's no parcel ID numbers, there's nothing.
Right, because in there, you probably saw it says Port of Fernandina. capitalize. And so, and I just remember I've seen maps that say Port of Fernandina, and it's got red properties delineated, and that's one of them.
But
And so
whether
those
that-
are the two pieces. I think you're right. Like, is there further delineation required? Is there more stuff to support it, or
Right,
go
like these other lots, they're probably within that red. And
yeah, they're
not
residential lots.
Right.
Yeah, which of course we can never use.
Right.
So if we wanted to.
We may need to do a little more digging if you want forward, but
Well, I think we should do a little bit more digging though, just for, the sake of understanding and knowledge, side of it. I don't proceed to me with this, I mean,
Well, one of the things about an RFI as opposed to an RFP, and I don't even know if you're committing yourself to anything with an RFP, specifically to an RFI, you're not committing yourself, you specifically put verbiage in the RFI that, this is not a commitment to move forward. This is not a selection document. This is for lack of a better word, a fact-finding document. Who might be interested? Send us some basic information about what you want to do, past experience doing that, and if we do move forward from the RFI to the RFP, the formal document, will certainly notify you and anybody else that might be interested.
well, I think for the time being, let's on hold, because Richard brings up some great, points, and then we can get more information, on that property, specific, and then, bring us back after, we'll kind of start there and then form from there.
Well, and if Greg, when speaking with others in operations, you determine that this is critical for the current operations or is supportive of a different line of business, then I think that we might still be able to achieve our streams of revenue and optimizing our footprint. Because that is our core, problem, is that we need to identify additional revenue streams and always sort of be, looking for ways to develop business. It could be that there's a federal, agency partner that may need a docking facility that's dedicated outside of the current footprint. We've talked about this before, that we're so close to the Navy facilities. We're so close to Kings Bay. The Coast Guard has operations in Channel regularly. There's other non-governmental organizations that regularly need docks. I know OSearch has facilities in the region. So it would be good to reach out to see if there's a need and what this could be used for, because I know just driving by, it's not used on a regular basis by current operations.
And
Is that something you could bring back as just ideas about how we could utilize it?
I think we already do utilize it. We utilize it for parking, we utilize it for overflow of stuff that can be stored outside.
So, but I mean, additional revenue streams. Is that something you could just consider? Bring back some ideas to the board about ways we might optimize that, since it's deep water. Parking isn't something that has to happen, adjacent to the water.
I mean, use the operator, use it. Like, we don't have any interest in entertaining anything else at this point, other than certainly down extra parking. I think there's probably been a long history of using it for that it's gonna be hard to go against.
Let's review the property, and then, go from there, don't bring it back to the next meeting as well. All right. Moving on to tab 12C, Fort Worth County Legislative Meeting. Commissioner Moore, thank you for attending and going to Tallahassee.
yes, I attended the FSTED and Fort Worth Council legislative meeting March 26th and 27th. For that, we've attended. The FSTED meeting was on March 26th. There was a presentation from Kim Holland, the Deputy Secretary of FDOT. She provided that, Florida ports provide 1.2 million jobs, in the state of Florida and bring in $196 billion in business. That was in 2003. Florida ports moved 4.3 million TEUs of cargo in 2024. She also briefed up that C-Hub is replacing the CSIS system here within the next couple of months, and that training will be provided. She doesn't give specific names about who would be receiving the training. I'm assuming there will be further information as we get a little bit closer to the training dates. One of the new features of the C-Hub system is that it has a funding dashboard that will provide each of the ports with a picture of all funds they have received, what funds they've been approved for in the future. It's not the approval mechanism, but it will give you a quick snapshot of funds that you've already been approved for coming down the pike. And then also it will have information on future funding opportunities that ports may or may not be eligible for, grants, things like that. She also briefed up that there's a port economic impact analysis, which is required by the legislature, that will be available on the C-Hub system. A lot of that is the information that I just briefed. The 1.2 million jobs, $196 billion in business in 2023, information like that you can use when co-delves and legislative delves come to your port. You can brief them up on what ports do across the state. There was also a presentation from Florida Commerce. Florida is the 15th largest economy in the world, $1.6 trillion in gross domestic product. Within the state of Florida, manufacturing is the fastest growing line of business, and there's also a big push within Florida to build data centers. But with regard to those, the infrastructure is critical. You just can't put a data center on, even though sometimes it can seem that way, you can't just put a data center in the middle of nowhere. You have to have the infrastructure available to support that operation. We also got a briefing from ExoDigo. It's a 3D mapping and infrastructure company that uses multi-sensors, LiDAR, radar, drone technology to map your facility for underground, overhead, and ground-based infrastructure, power lines, underground conduits. They also do. This is one of the important features of actually coming out and doing the assessment was it really helps in identifying abandoned infrastructure. It also does a good job at identifying decay in your infrastructure, underground infrastructure that may not be obvious from ground-based.
So this isn't LiDAR. What is it?
It uses LiDAR, radar, basically multi-sensor, depending on
Underground.
the environment that we use. Ground penetrating radar, LiDAR, drone technology, photography.
I heard about the one that does like asphalt condition assessments, like surfaces, roads, so basically like super high res pictures, but not like substructures.
Yeah, this goes down.
The trading.
Yeah, this goes down according to the briefing, 30 feet and 10 to 30 feet of depth.
I mean, that would be useful for all of the surface issues and erosion issues.
Yeah.
Especially like on the water side, where you can't get up underneath pylons.
Yep. Yeah, you'd be able to, conceivably run it down. Or if we did enter into a contract, you can have them do an assessment, obviously, of our dock situation and what it looks like underneath without having to send divers down there, paying the cost associated with putting divers down.
And who presented that?
It's a company called, I'm terrible with pronouncing names, ExoDigo, EXODIGO. I can get further information if we're interested in learning more about it. Okay. On the 27th, we attended the Florida Ports Council meeting. There are many changes afoot with transportation mechanism in Florida, and not a lot of clarity right now, as will happen with the legislative session being in-house at the time. There's a lot of competing legislation, a lot of sausage making, if you will, that's going on. And so there's not a lot of clarity about which way the different bills and proposed legislation is ultimately going to end out to be being approved, or if it's even going to be approved. One of the major takeaways is it appears there's going to be some change in the FSTED Florida DOT relationship, specifically how the positions are selected on the FSTED. Right now, it's selected by the ports. In the future, if the proposed legislation gets passed, FDOT can be selecting members for the FSTED if there is even an FSTED going forward. If they don't just roll the responsibilities into FDOT. Whether that passes or not,
Currently, those are ports that are members of the FSTED board, and so who would those members be? If selected by FDOT, they would be FDOT appointees, like who are with them.
not a lot of clarity how they would do that, or if FSTED will even be an entity moving forward. Basically, the responsibilities would be given to FDOT, and FDOT will determine the mechanism. A couple of bills of note. HB 1397 and Senate Bill 1662 contains an act relating to transportation. That's the bill that changes the FSTED staffing selection process and rolls most of the responsibilities over to FDOT. One of the other requirements, and you know, with the legislature in session, this is always subject to change. So this may have changed just since we were up there. One of the requirements was that all ports would submit a semi-annual report to FDOT relating to seaport operations and their support to the state's economic competitiveness. Another piece of legislation, HB 795, companion SB 594, an act relating to anchoring and mooring. As initially written, that allowed the seaports to apply to FWC to prohibit anchoring and mooring within 5,000 feet of a seaport entrance, pier, or seaport channel or turning base. The purpose is safety, security, and maintaining coverage. 5,000 feet is approximately a mile. That would certainly have some impact to Port Fernandino, or not Port Fernandino, the city of Fernandino, and the mooring fields that are associated. Again, don't know if that's going to move forward. Don't know if it's going to be changed. Don't know if it's been scrapped. But as of going up there, that was where we were at. We also talked about the U.S. Trade Representative's proposed rule regarding Chinese-built vessels. The LPTC issued a letter proposing that proposed change, proposed rule, and is actively lobbying Congress. We've submitted a letter voicing our concerns with that. So there is some indication that is the original proposal was a shot over the bow type thing. Now the USTR is starting to back off of that position a little bit because of the complaining reports rightfully pointing out what that would do to business across the nations. How they're going to change, what they're going to do, notification. We also talked about grants, some of the upcoming grants and just a little briefing on grants that were available. Just wanted to highlight a couple of them. The Port Infrastructure Development Program is to fund infrastructure projects to improve safety, efficiency, and reliability of freight. Application deadline on that is April 30th, 2025. I know Roseanne sent out some information on that, what they can be used for, what the grant application process is. I think a number of the projects we have pending, a number of the priority items might fall in line with what the PIDP projects are related to. So I'd like to get a good strong look at that and decide if we want to move forward with applying for that. As I noted, April 30th is the date of submission, last date of submission.
We don't do, so it is the ninth.
Yep.
So if we haven't started, I mean. We've discussed all of our projects, grant applications, is this on the radar? Well, PIDP is not, we knew about that one for months.
Right. We discussed that with Brendan back in February. We discussed that with Brendan back in February.
She's done.
She's gone. Yeah.
No, it's the end of this month. It's
PIDP.
So, it's like when we were talking. So, try.
Yeah.
We've applied for PIDP before.
I sent the previous application to Kyle.
So if we are going to submit an application before the 30th, then the board has to take action at the next meeting to approve an application. So we have to have something that's ready to vote on. We would not want the application to be attached to the agenda. We just would need to share it with the board members, email as we're done before. But I don't know how you're going to get feedback on the application from the board. Usually the materials are shared, then there's a meeting where we could talk about any tweaks, or there's one member of the board that works with the operator to kind of help shepherd it. We don't want to vote on something that no one's seen. Done that before. Well, I did.
So that's the But could we direct Rosanna to work to try to get the grid together?
Yeah, so
I would need help from the operator.
I mean, could we get something together by the 23rd? I know it's quick, but just something to look at.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. You want to assign one commissioner to work with us on?
I mean, I'll help any way I can.
I think it'll just shortcut what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's at least somebody's had a chance to be involved, and it's the only way we're going to do it by.
Yeah, so the key being consistent with our comp plan. We can't expand outside of our industrial footprint in the city, and we can't apply for this 2 different grants for the same project, right? That's like double dipping. But that's a major infrastructure pool of money. So we have subsurface issues of port, the docks and safety, flooding, all the resiliency efforts that we've did need to be priorities.
10 projects that already have great application responses. Just pick those through. Yeah, use that, but just reuse that there.
You
We
won't,
didn't get grants.
you may not have someone helping you at FDOT.
I was gonna say, is there something I thought we?
So no, she was, I'll go.
Yeah.
Great, so was it?
Yeah, for the sake of, brevity, that.
Well, great. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the very detailed, the great report. And then, yes, if you, Rosanna and Greg, or the grant this back to us on the 23rd, that would be awesome. I'm going to stick with you. Do you have anything else in for the board commissioner items?
Well, yes, I do.
Just go right into it.
I've had 3 inquiries from, business interests and interested in, at least, talking to us about, doing business with us. One of them is, Cargo. They're interested.
Thank you, ladies.
They're interested in installing an AIS system, which is basically a 2x2 box, a 3-foot antenna, and a data cable on port property. I expressed, our interest in talking and learning more about what they're proposing. So hopefully I'll hear back from them shortly. And I'll certainly provide it to the rest of the commissioners about what they say, what their real proposal is. Also got contacted by Sky H2O, which is an atmospheric water generating system. Their pitch is on a 50 by 50 site. They can produce 21,300 liters per day of water, and it includes a 5,000 gallon storage tank. Some of the uses are for data center cooling, food production, biotech labs, hurricane emergency management, and shipping services. Of course, they want $2 million for such a system. So
Will it cut down on the humidity and definitely?
I don't know. Maybe immediately around the little plant. So one of the other ones is Gfinity Technology. Amy Palmer. She has several partners that she works with, primarily up in Ohio right now, that are interested in partnering with interested parties such as OPA to build data centers. And she was very interested about OPA's authority. She, like most other people, just assumed that the Ocean Highway and Port Authority was the Port of Fernandina, nothing else. When I told her what the legislature actually said about our authority, she was very interested. She seemed to indicate that feel that she would have several people that were interested in at least discussing, the working with OPA to locate their businesses here. That's all I got.
All right, moving down. Vice Chair.
Mr. Chairman, there was 2 items, that I need to cover tonight. One of them is being that on April the 1st, we had a group of teenagers apparently play in the seniors game where they're chasing each other with water pistols. And we all know the outcome of the one that was reported in Yulee, where the young man was shot by a police officer because he was brandishing what appeared to that police officer when he walked out into his front yard at 4 a.m. to be a live weapon. I was notified of the issue on late Thursday of last week. It seems like on April the 2nd, the same teenagers came back, and we're doing it again. But on April 1st, we had 3 female suspects challenge the door on the maintenance facility and breached and went inside and was in there for approximately 3 to 4 minutes, according to what we saw in the video. The sheriff or the police department in Fernandina was notified. They sent an officer out there, but it was inconclusive on his investigation. He did not get a chance to see the video. So on Friday, Kyle and I viewed the video, and I followed up with the watch commander at Fernandina Beach Police. A formal report was made on Monday the 7th. It's been turned over to their investigative department, and we'll see what they come back with. But according to the video, with them challenging the door and getting inside, constitutes breaking and entering. So we'll see how that comes out. The concern I have, and Kyle and I went around there, he's going to do some additional shoring on that door to make sure that it can't be breached again. There's a lot of dangers inside of that warehouse and that shop area, and with no lights being on, because it was after hours, it was approximately 9:15, 9:20 when they breached it and went in. Creates a deep valley of concern. So once the police department comes back with their findings, they will be identifying these folks based on the video footage that I watched. They work at the restaurant directly across from warehouse number 3. Um, they put themselves in harm's way in a very bad way. So I'll keep you posted on that, and we'll advise the commissioners, whatever the watch commander comes back.
Was there anything, I'm sorry, was there anything stolen or damaged or something?
When they went in, they were in there for, like I said, 3 or 4 minutes. When they came out, another vehicle had pulled up in front of the warehouse between 1 and 2, and they crouched down and were like crawling to get behind that vehicle. I mean, appears to me that the person in the vehicle didn't know what they were even back there. So if he would have gotten spooked or whatever and just arbitrarily put the car in reverse, he would have run over 3 people. So we're having the video looked at. There's actually a report being combined. There was an incident report from all 3 officers that were involved. Kyle should have all the copies of those. But again, there's signage there warning people that they are on video surveillance, that there's no trespassing, that authorized personnel only. The thing that really bothers me is they had no second thoughts about going in that building. It was snatch this door open and let's go in. So with that being said, we'll continue to monitor it. I know Kyle's following it, so we'll see what happens from there. As I mentioned in the last report, we had a meeting with Commander Pepper with the Fernandina Beach Police on traffic issues, and I'm sure all the commissioners got emails about the trucks securing out there. We pretty much eliminated all that, but what was discovered is that trying to do that on foot is almost impossible, because by the time you walk all the way down to mid-Dade Street, trying to express yourself or catching the driver. So a request came that they return the golf cart to security. I sent out what was sent to me by the security company. It shows the additional cost. So I was asked by Allied to bring this before the board, which, like I said, you got the information, and that Kyle approved this for the golf cart to be reinstated. So if you got any questions, we can defer them back to Mr. Creech. Greg's here. I guess he can answer. Do you know anything about this, Greg?
No.
Okay. But I did ask about it, and they said for the sake of the officers getting out there and staying ahead of this, without a golf cart, it would be literally impossible for them to monitor all of that traffic that's out there during the vessels where you're moving cargo to you. So, it's there. There is a copy here that we can have the board sign on it, whatever, but it was okay by the terminal manager, general manager to move forward with this, unless you have any objections.
And hopefully the operators cover this cost.
That's right.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone had time to look at it. The annual cost is about $11,100.
I think what the cost was, and I'm trying to recollect what they paid on the last one. I think the last one was like $825 a month.
Oh, I was gonna say 8,000 total for you.
Yeah, it was close to the $800 mark that they were charged. So this one, I'm told, has to be tagged and it has to be licensed for the road because they're going to use it as a relay vehicle to keep the trucks at bay out on Date Street. So
So I'm okay with it. I think it's important, useful. I don't know how, I didn't know how, you know,
they tried
survive
it.
without it. Yeah.
Yeah, they tried it. And it just, they couldn't get there quick enough to stay on top of the issue.
Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, is is this an emergency? Is there a time code? This wasn't on the agenda, so I'm concerned about you're taking action on a item not listed on the agenda. You haven't had an opportunity to receive any public comment, just like those kind of procedural things. So I don't know if this has to be done now or you can wait 2 weeks
If it does, we might be able to provide something temporary until then. So probably have time.
Well, it's for the sake of procedure. Yeah, let's just add this to the next agenda. We have it on here and you guys formally approve it. See, we got it, sometime this afternoon, but it does make sense. So I agree.
I did confirm it has not been transferred to the terminal yet. Until he gets the signed contract, he doesn't want to overstep his bounds.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I know that the need is, there, and I can understand that completely, the need. If it didn't belong to just the allied people, if it belonged to the poor, you could use it for other things. That price, wow. I have a problem with that. I mean, it's your money, but I have a problem with that. You can buy a golf cart for that amount of money, pretty legal.
He does add in here that includes whatever insurance that is.
Yes, we got insurance,
Yeah.
maintenance, and everything. And they're gonna use, like, we would try to coordinate between them. They would just have access to it, full access. Yeah. Right.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Cole, was that on again?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Cole.
The only thing I have is through an economic development board, I do have a potential customer and I'm gonna touch base with you here on this issue.
Commissioner Hill.
Kind of the customer support
Also
or for OPA.
for the point.
Oh, right. Well, did you refer them to the?
I'm still finding out things and we'll talk to them.
Commissioner Hill.
Okay, TPO, so thank you for approving my motion to go ahead and enter into our PEPDOT interlocal agreement. On the agenda for tomorrow's TPO meeting, there is an action item for Transportation Regional Incentive Program, which we call TRIP. TPO is the agency for this program, which is funded with documentary stamp funds. And the TRIP agency includes the North Florida TPO board and one member of the Baker and Putnam County Commissioners. TRIP eligible projects include all funded projects included in a region-wide priority list, in addition to the projects that we're going to vote on at the TPO board meeting. And there are 4 Nassau County projects that are listed. And I did provide this agenda to Rosanna so she can share that with you all. But it's also on the website of the TPO. State Road 115 Lim Turner Road. So this I-295 to US 301. So West. That project is to widen to 4 lanes with multi-use trail and intersection improvements. There is State Road 200 and State Road A1A, Bigler Street to Amelia Island Parkway intersection improvements. US 17 Duval County line to State Road 200, widened to 4 lanes, intersection improvements. And then Atlantic Avenue, this is a complete street. 8th Street to Fletcher Avenue, continue to improve functionality and add capacity along Atlantic Avenue through intersection improvements, traffic circles along the corridor with context-sensitive improvements on parallel facilities, including shared use paths. And that's it for Nassau County. So we've got 4 projects that are on this list, and this is just the draft 2025 annual list of priority projects. And the board, the TPO board receives this list and votes on it, but then there's a separate committee that meets, which I know a lot of times Commissioner Moore, you attend, Rosanna sometimes attends the working session. And in the working session, there are representatives from the city. I know that Sarah Campbell is in contact with TPO, and I think Jeremiah Gleason's getting more plugged in on the facility side. And then the county is well represented. So all these projects have been discussed with like the relevant engineering operational folks. And again, those are funded through doc stamp funds, which is great because it's not, it's not direct taxation, it's transactional taxation, I guess. But yeah, so that's great to see some of those projects coming forward for planning purposes. So I think that's pretty early stages for all of those. They're in like the engineering and like field survey stage for most of those. And that's it for TPO.
All right, thank
I
you.
have one question for you. The state road between 295 and 301, that's Slim Turner Road. Was there a specific time period maybe, or?
They don't list it here, but I can get it for you. I think it's for the next 5 years. I don't know when their groundbreaking would actually be. So this is really just to prioritize the projects, and I think right now it would be they're in the engineering phase, but I can find out for when the groundbreaking would be scheduled.
There was a paving of it, and then why would you repave it, and then 3 years later, flatten it? So I'm just looking, and they haven't paved it yet, so I'm thinking maybe they can move it up.
Well, two more projects I probably should mention. So they're also, this is outside of Nassau County, but it would impact travelers. Heckscher resurfacing, they are reallocating some of the funding to 2026, so that indicates that project is moving forward. $1.5 million Fort George, that's Fort George Island to the Nassau County line. So I think that's going to move up probably in the cycle. And then Tuesday, May 20th, from 4:30 to 5:30 is the Nassau County virtual tip session. So there's information on the TPO website, but it's always good for members of the board to like join those virtual sessions. And Rosanna sends out links and reminders, but you might just put on your calendar Tuesday, May 20th at 4:30. That's the dedicated Nassau County session. And I'll just tell you anecdotally, if for what it's worth, Nassau County needs to show up more. I show up, we need, but these workshops and all that, we should put in our input. We're huge in terms of geography, but very small in terms of voice, the number of people, good things. And I had a different item that's not TPO. Can I write it down? Okay. Just all this discussion about the legislature and the Senate just starting their fun and games in Tallahassee. Would it be good for us to send a member of the commission for a quick over and just to be a face associated with a request? Perhaps the chair.
I think that's up to you all. I don't think it would hurt.
So we have 30 days, right?
Less.
Yeah, less than 30 days. So we'll get together again later this month, but I think it might be worth mileage if you're willing to go.
Yeah,
I haven't brought it up until now.
yeah, well, thank you for volunteering me. I goes on. No, I think I actually, and you're right. I know anytime committees or boards, you it's really kind of advocating for that request. And so more than happy to do so.
Yeah, and if you're not able to go, I mean, Commissioner Moore, you did a great report from, and that was one of the most comprehensive reports, including my own, that we've ever gotten from a Port Ports Council meeting, so. Yeah, it was awesome, it was awesome.
Davis will coordinate that, best time and everything, so. Davis. All right,
Just one alibi related to Commissioner Hill. I've asked this before. Do we participate in any of the lobby days on the Tallahassee? I know there's rural lobby days. There's any number of lobby days. We don't seem to, at least as far as I can find out, we don't seem to participate in that whole legislative process.
The Economic Development Board does go.
Yeah.
So yes, Economic Development Board does go. They've been attended to the rural county days with the town of Callahan and the town of Hilliard.
Right.
And we had a couple of our call them prospects or partners. There we go. They've attended and had giveaways. So there's been good representation during rural county days for Nassau County, but not specifically for the port.
Yeah, from a
Yeah.
I mean, we're an elected body just as you know, town council for Callahan, the Hilliard, city of Fernandina Beach, you know, we're a little bit different, but we're elected just like they are. We've all prayed to the good and bad of what the legislature does. Probably would be a good idea for us to participate in some way. And
I think it's important.
yeah, no, and Commissioner Moore, any of us are welcome to go over there at any time to participate. Um, Certainly, I mean, again, Economic Development Board, that's when they go over there, rural county days or anything. You know, they're not gonna say no for the extra voice being over there. For Ports Council, when they were there, you know, just, you guys went a couple weeks ago. That's really that time. But again, everybody's welcome to go.
Yeah, the challenge has just always been, we don't have much of a budget, and so if it's a specific ask, like what we're doing with the customs facility. And it's a particularly challenging time, then we can rationalize. If it's just, we're just doing the fly-in just to be there, it's not. We don't have a budget to just send commissioners, and then too, the commissioners turn over, and so to be consistent with it, you really need to be, sitting with the same person. I think, that's just the challenge we faced.
All right. So I do want to just mention last week the Chamber of Commerce hosted their quarterly luncheon. It was great to see Commissioner Moore there. We heard from Andrew Wallace from Jax USA, Sherry Mitchell, the Executive Director of Nassau County Economic Development Board, and Holly Coyle, who is the Nassau Economic Resources Manager. Really kind of giving an overview. We had a regional outlook from Mr. Wallace, and then of course Sherry gave the economic development board's review, and then our outlook overview rather, and then Holly Coyle, from the county side, gave a great presentation. At the presentations, so I will forward them to Rosanna. Just might be worth taking a look at and reviewing. But again, it was a great turnout. A lot of excitement going on. They were touting the recent ribbon cutting of HCA and really the big medical hub that we have now out there in the Wildlife Eagle area right there, 295 with HCA to stand UF Health. So, all right, Rosanna, anything to add for your office manager report before we adjourn?
Yes, sir. I'll be quick. This was on my calendar from last year. Does the board want to do a National Maritime Day proclamation with the city of Fernandina? The deadline to submit to go on their agenda is this Friday.
We did.
All right, that's good for me. You guys were sent the documents for the Escambia Slough. That's very important for the operator to look at because it might impact the port. So you have
Yeah, it's already.
This Gambia slough. I know. Um,
They've closed Escambia Street.
yeah. So I don't know if it's going to impact the port, but you have the documents. And then the rural and tribal grant, we submitted it, but they had issues with the portal, so they're going to give another deadline to submit. So we will resubmit. I've been checking every day. They still don't have a deadline, a new deadline to submit. So I'll do that. I would like to ask Commissioner Moore, you are appointed to the FDOT committee. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so no problem. You're going to attend the FSTED meeting on the 16th, and I will forward you the Zoom invite. Sorry about that. OPA received a check for 1,909 from FMIT. This is a refund for the workers' comp fiscal year 2023, 2024 for David Kaufman. We removed him, so they gave us back money. Great. And I've been, I am attending the AI workshop series with the Chamber of Commerce. They're fantastic. Miss Regina is terrific there. So I'm learning about AI. Part of the minutes were AI generated. OPA's new email address, I just want to highlight that, admin@portofernandina.org. It is posted on the website. That's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Questions about the website. We had talked about looking into doing like ADA compliant.
Right. I've been researching that, and I haven't gotten a reply back from Wix, which is the current platform that we use, if they can do an ADA compliance for us. So I'm researching that. And we got to do that by the end of the year.
Well,
Or
I'd
no.
like to do it like sooner than later because the city's paid a settlement, and then you still have to comply. So we still have to make investment. And then on top of it, Usually Central, who just goes around suing people, just sue them. So
Yeah.
it's a priority.
And Commissioner Moore is helping them with that. Thank you. So, but it costs a lot. So
All right. Ted, again, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're here, and hope you enjoyed the meeting. It's riveting, I know. Greg, thank you. Thank you all for being here. And our next meeting will be April 23rd, right here, same place. We have the room for an hour, so I'm getting